Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Galit Speaks podcast. If you were celebrating Yom Kippur today, I hope you had a really easy fast, and that's why we're starting a little bit later today. I'm super excited to have our guest. Her name is Dr. Marcia Martin M Ed, PhD, the heart healer. She is a spiritual empowerment counselor, minister, best-selling author, public speaker, and clairaudient angel communicator, specializing in helping people heal their relationship with themselves. By healing the heart of all past pain and trauma, you'll be able to establish and maintain healthy relationships with yourself and all others so you can live a successful life. Her unique heart-centered, energetic healing approach, the angel heart healing technique, enables you to build a perfect relationship with yourself and helps you answer the questions, who am I? Why am I here? And where am I going? Marcia will help you release your greatest fear so you can achieve your biggest dreams as you heal your heart and transform your life. Thank you so much for being here, Marcia.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's my extreme joy to share the angels and to share everything that is possible.
Yeah, so it's so crazy because I did not, when we scheduled for today, obviously I did not remember that it was Yom Kippur. And it seems so perfect and perfectly aligned that you would be the speaker, because one of the things on Yom Kippur is to mimic an angel, right? There's customs to wear all white. We only wear man-made materials. We don't eat or drink because we want to be as angelic as possible. So it just seems like the perfect time to have you on.
Aren't the angels amazing? They bring two people that don't know each other uh, together on a day when angels are being celebrated. I mean, that can't get any you can't get any better than that. And you know what I love most is that every major religion makes mention or honors the angels in some way. So if you are religious, the you are welcome to convene with the angels and your religion will support that. And if you aren't religious, the angels don't have one particular religion and they'll be happy to work with you just as you are. So they are delighted to be with us, to help us, to guide us, to lead us. And we need to remember that you are not somehow defaming the divine by honoring or walking with an angel. There is only one creator, and all beings come forth from that creation. And so the angelic beings also are a part of that creator being, and they were created to help and guide us because it is understood how difficult the journey can be in this physical form. So, all are welcome to call on the angels, ask them for guidance and support, for direction and help, and know you will not be somehow causing difficulty for yourself with the divine.
Yeah. And I have a question. How did you start on this path? What was there a major turning point in your life where you were just like, "Oh, this makes sense. I can commune with this."
I wanted like, flashing lights and a big, a big ta-da! Instead, I got a slow slide downhill and kind of, oh goodness, my cat was, my angel cat sharing her love. I got a slow slide down into, gotta make some changes. Off the cliff, not head first, just kind of sliding slowly into destruction. And it made me realize that as a kid, I always had all of these conversations going on with I thought myself. However, now it's adult, I'm realizing, oh, I was having all these conversations with these lovely beings that are here to help me. So, as a child, lots and lots of talking with these beings that were happy to talk back, believing that it was just me conversing with me. Then in high school became really interested in a book called Love Signs, Linda Goodman's Love Signs, and really became sort of fascinated with the whole psychic world because at the time we didn't have anything like spirituality. We had religion, and then we had parapsychology. We didn't have something that would be a bridge in between. You were either on the religious track or you were on this sort of pseudo track. And there was no real, just have a relationship with the divine in the middle. So I got very interested in the whole parapsychology world and started doing a lot of research and study along that area. Found a meditation group, and we took Jose Silva's mind control class, just doing everything we knew how to do to kind of enrich ourselves or open ourselves up to the possibility that there could be a realm beyond ourselves. But even so, we still were kind of like missing the main component, which is it's your connection to the divine. So this was during my master's program, and I finished that program and realized, oh, this has been really fun, but I've got to get a real job. I can't just keep doing these parlor tricks. And so get that real job, get married, and start this descent into complete dysfunction, just sliding little by little into a place of such heartache and pain and um, disillusionment. And it was not until my 40s that I really kind of said, okay, I think I'm at the end. I'm as far as I can go with the amount of pain that I've endured and the amount of heartache and hardship that I want to be involved with. So I need to start figuring it out again. I need to go in a new direction. And so that began my search back again to the library, to the section on spirituality and religion, back into religion, kind of, trying them all on for size. Maybe one of them would have that connection that I'm looking for. Maybe one of them would teach me how to love me and how to feel good about me. Well, I learned a whole lot. I learned so many new techniques and I gained so much information and separated further and further from religion because I kept getting dealt so much shame and rejection and judgment that since I was already in that place of pain, I just couldn't handle theirs on top of mine. And
Yeah.
again, sort of out in the cold, searching for a place to belong. And it wasn't until I stumbled upon a book, I think it was a book by Abraham Hicks, that was the first time I recognized the truth of this statement. And it said something along the lines of, you are where you are today because of the thoughts that you have been thinking up until this point. And that was not the moment that I wanted to have. That hit me so hard because I had been so dearly wedded to being a victim up until this point. So for me to hear you're responsible for where you are, I shut that book so quickly. I was like, oh, these people are idiots. What do they know?
Yeah.
And I think it was almost 6 months before I was willing to open that book again and say, okay, I think I'm brave enough to look at my part in this. And that's when everything began. So there were no fireworks, no flashing lights, no angelic visitation. There was just a book on a library shelf that hit me so hard that I couldn't even read it for 6 months. And
Yeah.
sometimes the truth can be so painful that we can't absorb it in that moment, and that's okay.
Yeah, it can be earth-shattering, especially when you realize that it's you, that you're
For
the one that's holding yourself back.
Yes, and for me to let go of the victim card meant all of these bad things that had happened were back on my plate. And gosh, it took a lot to get to the place where I was willing to even begin entertaining that. And then it took a whole nother bit of time before I was able to own it.
Wow. So you mentioned being in victimhood. Uh, it's okay if you don't want to share, but I would like to ask, can you tell a little bit about that and where were the spots in your life that you felt like a victim?
It was ongoing. I don't remember a time when I didn't. I remember not feeling really like a part of my family of origin. I was a little weird, considerably younger than my siblings, and never really felt like I had a place at the table. So, luckily, I loved to read, and I spent a lot of time in that reading fantasy zone. And then encountered childhood friends that it became more of a bullying relationship because I didn't know how to stand up for myself, didn't really understand the idea that you could be self loving, and certainly didn't see myself as valuable because no one had shared that with me. And that really wasn't the dynamic in my family. So it just went from one situation where I viewed myself as the servant to another situation where, and they got progressively worse. you
Yeah.
know First it was just do this, do that, and then it just became assumed, oh, you'll do this and that because it's you. And I never did anything to change that, and began to see that as my life purpose. I am here to serve you. You are here to receive from me. I am not here to receive anything. And so it becomes a very unhappy existence after a while. There's just, you run out of energy to give because you've been completely depleting yourself and not refilling. And then you don't know what else to do. And certainly giving is my nature. I love to give. I think it's wonderful. I love my life now, and it's all giving. However, it's not one sided. Now I know how to receive.
Yeah. I have to say, I resonate a lot with what you're talking about. I too, I mean, I have four older siblings and one younger. The four older siblings are much older, and I am there's 8 years, and then me and my little sister, and so I'm like the oldest of the second batch. And there was a lot of that, like not fitting into my family and living, you know, almost kind of like living in their shadow and not quite being a part of it, but being made to like yeah, give of myself in ways like I mean, it's cute and whatever, but when you're a kid and like it's your job to like massage your older siblings and like, you know, but they don't actually want to hang around with you. There is like this feeling of not belonging and yet being taken from.
Well, and it's very isolating. And if you're not close to the parental unit or the caregiving unit, then, where are you getting your sustenance from? And I think that's something that many people who are really emerging into the world now with a heart to change the world and to change the circumstances and the way we relate to each other, they're recognizing you have to have a connection to something and somewhere. You can't just be in this state of isolation. So I think it's really wonderful the way that we are gathering now and beginning to support each other. But it can make it really lonely, and you then become quite the candidate for abuse because you don't really expect anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely also resonate with this idea, although I read a lot as a child, but it was sort of an escape for me. I would read
Oh,
for
definitely.
hours and hours just to escape my surroundings. I grew up in a domestic violence situation, so I obviously was not getting what I needed from my parents. My older siblings were not able; they were too young and did not understand, and were honestly too in it to be of much help. And so I really used being alone and isolating and just reading and jumping into other worlds through books and to to mask that isolation.
I've probably read whole libraries. I understand right right where you're coming from. Yes, it's a way, first of all, not to feel your pain, because when you are alone and nobody is really that concerned with your well-being, it can feel quite hurtful and a little bit too much to take. But if you are immersed in the book and you have this wonderful world that's going on in front of you and you can be part of it, because reading is so immersive, whereas video is less, requires less of us personally. So yes, it was a wonderful escape. It was a wonderful way to make myself important and to give myself a place to belong.
Yeah. So what do you do now?
I still read voraciously. I love to read. I love to read. I just love to climb into other places. But I love spending time with the angels. The angels are truly my best friends. They are fun, they are funny, they are helpful, they are kind, and they are loving. And they never have to sleep. They never get tired. They never get hungry. They never get angry.
Yeah.
And they just help me with everything. So I just take my best friends with me everywhere. And they are such a source of replenishment that I am able to do much more at this age than I was probably able to do in my 20s.
Wow. And so for you, I guess you've had them around you your whole life. What about for
Yes.
people that haven't? How do they get in touch with that, and how do they add this this angel connection to their life?
What a great question. First of all, let's recognize that no one, there are no exceptions, no one is without a connection to the divine. It is located right here in the energetic heart center. And that connection also opens you up to the angelic community. So no one is without angelic helpers. You And by that, I mean they are here even if you are even if you are not aware of them. So no one is without a divine connection and no one is without angelic support. What often confuses us is that as we become adults, once we move out of childhood where we could be considered vulnerable, the angels will not interfere. They must be asked. So, unless it is a case of life or death and you are trying to exit before your time, the angels will not step in to prevent you from doing something. They will support you even in your horrible choice. Let me tell you, they've supported me through a lot of bad choices. They'll help you minimize the damage that you are causing with your choice. But if you want them to actually participate with you, to actually be there with you, it is necessary for you to invite them in and to create a relationship. It's like any relationship. You can't just check in once a year and think that you're going to have access with to their support with ease. You will always have access. However, you'll forget. You'll make it more difficult and more complicated than it is. You will not see yourself as worthy, or you won't follow their advice. So, the first thing to do before you even try to begin your relationship is decide, hey, am I ready to put the time and energy into this? If you're not, that's okay. Just don't start it unless you really want to benefit, because they are such a fabulous resource, but it does require being all in. If you're just going to hop in once in a while, then yeah, maybe you'll get some help if you're open, but most likely you'll forget they're there. So I would encourage everyone to just ask yourself, am I ready to invite into my life the greatest support team that I could ever create, develop, pay for, and honor, and know that the payment is going to be my time, my commitment. And then once you've decided, yeah, I'm all in, all you have to do is open your heart. Just open your heart. Hey, angels, I really want a relationship with you. Please come closer. Please be with me, walk with me, talk with me, guide me, lead me, help me navigate this life, and let's have some fun together. And they are so loving life. They are the biggest jokesters you are ever going to encounter. So, if you really want serious, you don't want a relationship with any of the energetic beings. They think this is hilarious. They understand we're taking it seriously, but they also understand that we're doing ourselves great damage by trying to believe everything is so whatever, so serious. And so they're always joking. And sometimes you don't want to hear their jokes, but they're always joking, and they're right. There's never been a time when I've wanted to be so serious and just no, this is not the time for joking, that I look back and think, oh, why didn't I just laugh my way through it? I mean, really, what was I trying to prove? Why not just stay in a high vibration of joy and make my way through it with ease instead of being the doom and gloom girl and trying to make it difficult?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because I guess growing up thinking about angels, you think of them as serious. You don't
Yes,
necessarily
and
think of them
stern.
and stern, right? You don't necessarily think about them as something joyful. But it also does make sense that they have a much larger view than you do. And when you're
They
looking at things, it's so intense and so serious, and you're going at it from that perspective. But if you stepped back and realized, oh, in the grand scheme of things, how important is this really to my life?
And then what we discover when we begin walking with them and seeing through their eyes, we start to adopt their attitude of, okay, hit a rough patch. This will be over quickly. How can I move through it even more quickly? Well, one of the things we need to do is extract the elements that you needed to learn. What do I need to learn from this? Oh gosh, how did I land myself in this position? What was I thinking? What was I feeling? What was I talking about? Where did I put my attention to place myself in this swamp? Oh, now that I know, I can undo all of that. I can move right over to this place of joy, and I'll allow myself to move quickly away from this place of pain and be wiser for it.
That's beautiful.
I mean, you're talking to someone who spent 20 years just in quiet despair as an adult, maybe 25. And the second 25, just moving closer and closer to a state of joy, permanent joy, the more time that I am spending with my angelic helpers. So much has changed, but what has changed the most is my relationship with myself, my ability to love myself, my ability to accept help and guidance, and to see myself as worthy. And that is all because of joining forces with the angelic community and honoring that connection with the divine.
Wow. And so you talk about going to this place, being in this place of constant joy. And I feel like that is so hard, especially now with what's going on in the world. There's so much that depresses you, gets you down. We just passed, we're still going through a pandemic, but we passed the worst of it, and it just shattered the lives of so many people. How do you get from that place to a place of joy?
What a great question. I'm going to share with you something that the angels did for me, because the most important thing you need to understand is that you are loved. You are loved beyond measure. There is absolutely nothing that you could do, say, think, or feel that could separate you from that love. The only problem is that we don't often know that that is our truth. And so we think that we're alone. We think that we are burdened. We think that things are awful. And with a little bit of help, with just being able to open our hearts to the divine, we would be in a much better space. But let me share something they did for me. And this is not a time when they were joking. This was a time where I had allowed myself to be really consumed by the news. It could have been a school shooting or, one of these things that are happening, a shooting somewhere that just is so devastating. And because you can feel the pain of not just the victims, but of the shooter themselves. And I really, for all of you who are empathic, spend a moment in the energy of the shooter and it will make you weep. They are so tortured. They are so confused and need love so badly. And the victims are usually beautiful, fabulous beings that have agreed to this time to help the rest of us remember how much love is necessary right now. But I had gotten caught up in the news cycle of whatever this was, and was probably thinking about, oh, it must be time for me to reach out to the victims' families and the survivors and, to see what I can do. And I just consumed too much of it without plugging into my divine source. And after a couple of days, I was out walking and I thought, I am in trouble. I am really in trouble. I feel like I'm wearing cement shoes in the ocean and I can barely breathe. And I thought, okay, I need help. I need help right now. So all I could think to do was to call on Mother God. And I see God as mother and father, and I call upon them together and separate. And I just have a really good time with them. So I called out to Mother God and I said, I need help. I am so lost in the darkness of despair. I have allowed myself to get sucked into the pain and to feel the energy of the shooter or shooters and to see how confused and lost and frightened they were. And now I can't find my way back out. I need help. Sent off that prayer and I kept walking. And I felt after I said that, okay, I can breathe a little better. Okay, I can breathe a little better. But then I was saying to myself, "Oh, I still need help." It's like, okay, Mother, I still need help. Thank you for that. But that's not enough. I'm still got my cement shoes on. It's still struggle. I haven't shaken this despair. I really need you to step in. And I turned the corner and I was starting to walk now up a hill. And at the time, I'm noticing there is no bird song. It is gray and overcast, and everything is just still. It's as if the whole world is holding its breath and is in this place of despair with me. So I'm walking along. I'm thinking, thank you for the help. I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you for hearing me and answering my prayer. And within a few seconds of releasing everything to them, the sky opened and the sun came right down where I was walking, and the birds began to sing. And all of that despair that I was feeling was lifted from me. And I spent the rest of the walk in tears of gratitude for the way that they loved me so much that they would orchestrate this whole thing on my behalf to show me that I was so important to them that it mattered how I was feeling. And I want everyone to know I am not special. They will do the same for you. And I had even said to them, you can't just talk to me. We do that all the time. I need an outward show because I'm too lost in this place of darkness and I'll just think I'm making it up. I need you to move outside of me and show me that you're here. And they changed that whole little area where I was to demonstrate to me how important I was, how important my heart was to them. And that's what they want to do for each and every one of us.
Wow. And so what I hear is that you had been struggling, with essentially what could be termed as like a mental health issue. And they
Yes.
came to relieve it for you. What are your thoughts on that? And how can we, because mental health is such a huge issue in our society today. And there isn't enough treatment and there isn't enough options, and it's still not fully thought of as real, right? By a lot of different communities. What are your thoughts on that, and how can we change it? How does spirituality and angels fit in with mental health treatment?
What a great question. Especially because, in that example that I just gave you, I had stepped right out of joy because I have this dialogue going on in my head about the world is a bad place, the world is falling apart, there's nothing you can do, you can't make a difference. Look at this, another school shooting, mass shooting. Oh, you think I was on it. I was condemning and belittling and shaming myself for something I had nothing to do with, but I had gotten caught up in the loop. So, how can they help you? Well, they have given me the most incredible technique of how to get off that hamster wheel. Because truly, if we allow our thoughts to keep going in that direction, we know that they are just going to bring back to us thoughts that are even more intense than the one that you started out with. So, I probably started out with, oh my gosh, this is horrible that there has been another shooting. And then I didn't turn off the tap. I just kept dwelling on it. I allowed myself to get emotionally involved with it. And before I know it, I'm drowning in all of the thoughts that are connected with this incident. And I am drawing to me more and more references of this type of thing. And the only way that we can stop that is to give it back to the divine. And the angels have this beautiful technique that they shared with me. You do it in the Sacred Heart Center, where you literally offload your thoughts and put them on an escalator and say, you're gone. Everything that goes into the heart of the divine is transformed into unconditional love and acceptance and can be returned to you as uplifting, inspirational, and supportive thoughts. But you must take the first step and say, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed by this negative self talk or negativity that I keep entertaining. Okay, I got to do something. I've got to pack it all up and ship it off. And this is where, if you're not strong enough, call on the angels. Angels, please help me to wrestle all these thoughts together and to give them away, and then help prevent me from running after them again and starting the whole. We've got to remember that we are in control of our thoughts. It is not the thoughts running us, it is us running our thoughts. And I have found through my work that all of what we experience is generated in the heart. So when you clear and heal the energetic heart space, you'll clear away the memories of abuse, the memories of trauma, the ways in which the world is failing, and all of the things you cannot do. And you're going to replace that heaviness with feelings of joy and love and peace. And it will be so much easier than to focus on what is working instead of feeling so attracted to what isn't working, because your whole energetic field, which is run by your heart, is filled with past abuse, trauma, and disillusionment.
So, do you actually visualize the different thoughts leaving your heart center and going on an escalator up into the heavens?
Yes, I they actually have created, because they know I love things to be pretty. So this is one of the techniques that I share with people in my spiritual community, my heart's desire. But you can do absolutely anything you want, because this is your sacred space and we all have it. Nobody has come here without that connection or that space. So I like to put all my stuff in a box or a basket and decorate it and make it really fancy, big ceremony, send it off. Because for me, that gives me the time to just be ready to be done with it. But I worked with someone who was absolutely hilarious, and they would always say, I don't have time for all that. I got a laundry basket and I'm dumping it all in there and shipping it off. And I was like, okay. And since they've shared that with me, there have been many days where I'm like, where's my laundry basket? This is Gotta go right this second. So
Yeah.
it is, we've got to be aware. Again, getting back to, am I a victim or am I a conscious creator? As a victim, I just swallowed anything that happened to be swirling by and became more and more depressed. As a conscious creator, I am aware of what is going through my mind, and I am either allowing or choosing not to participate with a thought or a feeling or an energetic vibration.
Yeah. So while you were talking, it just brought to mind a client of mine on my coaching side who also loves things in pretty boxes and to decorate and make it all gorgeous. And one of her techniques was to create a literal beautiful box. And this was obviously on, I'm a financial coach, so this was for her bills, which always were something that gave her anxiety and that made her feel uncomfortable. And so she gave them a beautiful home, and with glitter and like would stamp them with like different shapes and things to make them prettier and more fun, and taught her to look at them in a different light, not as something to be anxious about, but rather she actually started to think about them as every single bill in this box is somebody that trusted me to pay them.
Yes, and let's start having the conversation that there are no enemies. There are merely situations and people that you would prefer not to be associated with, and people in situations that you would. And then there's the area in the middle where sometimes the ones you would like to, you need to take a break from, and sometimes the people that you think you wouldn't want to associate with are really stepping up, and you can have a lovely time with them. So let's just be open to all of the fabulous possibilities that can happen when you are not burdened by pain from the past, or when you're not living that lie of you're not good enough.
Yeah. And I know that some of our viewers are more tangible, right? They like to see it written. Um, and I've often talked about writing things down on a piece of paper and burning it, or throwing it into the ocean or something like that, but making a physical representation of the thoughts and then eliminating them from your life. And also, you know, the things that you want, writing those
Yes.
down, and writing those thoughts down and making sure that they're front and center in your life. Is that something that you ascribe to?
100%. And I'm going to add a little educational component to this. The
Yeah.
teacher in me always loves to learn. When you write in longhand, and I would suggest that get away from your computer if you really want to identify with something, whether it's positive or negative. Get away from your computer, pick up your pen, and start writing longhand. Something wonderful happens when you are forming the letters, and that is new neural pathways are being created. Your brain is actually going online with you to say, oh, what is it that you want? Okay, we'll get you more of this. Oh, what do you want to release? Okay, we're not going to look at that anymore. Your brain can help you if you will help the brain by operating in the way that the brain learns best. So involve your physical body, pick up that pen, start writing, write it over and over and over again until you really feel that you own it. And then, yes, take that next step and say, okay, now I'm releasing it. But don't release it until you own it, because then you're going to let uncertainty and doubt and fear come clouding in.
Mm.
And I would rather you write it 1,000 times if that's what it takes for you to feel certain that this is what you've aligned with. And that's positive or negative. You have to be really clear so that you don't keep bringing it back in. So let's say I decide I am no longer going to eat cheesecake, but I really love cheesecake. And I really haven't gotten to the place where I'm in alignment with the understanding that cheesecake and I need to part ways. Well, maybe if I sit there and write about why I need to let go of cheesecake, I might really leave the camp of poor me. I can't have any more cheesecake. It's so hard. I'm such a victim. Oh, sad, pity, pity. I might actually step over because I'm looking at this drivel that I'm committing to. I might step over to the place where I'm feeling really empowered and say, I am ready to feel my best physically, to be my most mentally clear, to live my best life. And that's not going to happen if I keep this eating pattern. So I like people to really feel satisfied that they have explored something before they force themselves to give it up. No more forcing, just allowing, giving yourself permission. Oh, you now have permission to live better, to eat better, to feel better. That sounds so much more lovely than you can't eat any cheesecake. It's just
Yeah,
let's honor that child within that wants to have a voice and doesn't understand until you share with them why something is important or valuable or worthy.
I think we've spent so much time, especially as children, you're told what to do and you're not explained. Nobody explains to you why you shouldn't do it. And then we just grow up and rebel against it or feel like we don't want to do it because we don't understand the meaning behind it. I know that in my journey with spirituality and my journey with I was raised Jewish, and there were so many things that the things that I still keep today are the things that I understood. They're the things that were explained to me and that made sense to me. So I'm vegan now, but before I was vegan, um, there's this idea of not mixing milk and meat. And the reasoning behind it is not to cook an animal in its mother's milk. When you hear that, that's powerful. Just telling me that I can't have a piece of cheese on a burger doesn't have the same effect. When you then bring in, no, this is an animal, and you are literally using the milk that was supposed to feed it in order to cook it, that had a different feeling for me. And now, obviously, as a vegan, I do it for the animals. So that led to kind of like this lifelong mission to try to find the best way to hurt the least amount of beings.
You know what you said so beautifully? You've just identified heart healing. Heart healing is understanding through the heart why you would want to do something or not do something. And that is the language, the voice of God. The voice of the divine comes through your heart. It comes through love. It comes through acceptance. And this is why I think it is so incredibly important for us to understand why. If we're just told no, we are all running as fast as we can for that cheesecake because it's got to be great. Otherwise, they wouldn't be withholding it from us. But the minute that you're told, well, this is going to cause your body not to function well because of X, Y, and Z, Oh, okay. I think I'll skip this time. And you begin to feel better, and then, I'll skip the next time too. And then you feel even better. And now joy has taken the place of deprivation, and you don't even think about the cheesecake. Now you're so excited and living in such a place of love that it's easy. And I think that for me was the biggest transition. Moving from a place where life was such hard work to a place where life is so easy because it's lived through the wisdom of the heart. Now, not that previous heart that I was toting around that had all of the weight of the world in it. This is a cleared, healed heart that now is in alignment with the divine, in partnership with the divine. And so I am able to see that lighter, brighter side. Whereas before, the only side I connected to was the doom and gloom side.
Yeah. It's so easy to get sucked into the doom and gloom, right? Because we don't automatically, we're not, because we've been through so much, and especially children that have come through kind of a traumatic upbringing, that's what we know. That's what we're used to. That's what feels comfortable.
Well, and you are in a domestic violence situation. You have to add fear. You have to add that domineering energy of kind of overbearing energy that doesn't make any sense. And even if you were to ask the individual why they are acting this way, they wouldn't know because they're not in their right mind. They have stepped out of ownership and into a place of, well, into a place where nobody's home. And when we get into that place, we are really then inviting in these lower energy, these dark energies that have absolutely no regard for our personal well being or the well being of anyone else. And it can be quite painful. But when you grow up in your case, fear based situation, or in my case, a fear thinking family, fear seems to be normal. Of course, you should be afraid of everything. Now, in your case, the fear was justified. You didn't know what was going to be coming or when it was going, when or if it was going to involve you. So you had a much different focus, but mine was just, if everyone else was afraid, even though they were safe, well, then I should be afraid too.
Right. Yeah.
It's amazing that you are in this place and that you have been able to move yourself so far away from that pattern. So you really, really need to congratulate yourself, give yourself a hug, and just, wow, you are amazing.
Thank
So
you.
many people.
Too.
So many people would have used that as an excuse to stay small and to say, stay in the place of fear. And you have stepped right out into your truth and into your power. And I honor that. I really support you in continuing in the way that you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a lot of work, a lot of therapy, a lot of looking at myself and as you said, stepping out of being the victim. I was not the victim. I could no longer be the victim. I had to take ownership of my life and who I was, and and just be the person that I wanted to be rather than the person that I was told I would be.
Wow. Wow, that is so powerful. And I think it's important for all of us to remember that there are no mistakes. No one um, got here as a surprise or uh, on an unplanned journey. So you might have begun your life with a family of origin that you feel you didn't fit. However, if you look back on that place and review everything that you learned and everything that you experienced, you'll see the beautiful pattern that's emerging. And this is true because I work with the majority of the people that I work with have had severe abuse and trauma. And I remember early in my career saying to Mother God, oh, I really don't understand why you thought it was appropriate to allow all these people with these incredible hearts to come and be exposed to these very abusive situations. And she said, I understand that you would think that way. However, what you're not understanding is everyone who is on the planet at this time knew that they would be part of the planetary ascension. And they chose what role they were going to play long before they began this life. And those of you who chose to be in trauma filled childhoods knew that you would need to be a light for others and that you would need to be incredibly courageous and strong and unlikely to bend to the will of others if this ascension was actually going to be successful. So basically, her answer was everyone who is currently or was currently in a trauma filled childhood chose it for their personal growth because they understood that they wanted to hold the light of love for the world when the time came for this ascension to happen. So it was not by mistake. None of us were victims. We were merely being gaining strength for this role that we now have of sharing with the world how to walk in love despite dark times.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. And we're coming close to an hour, so I want to give you the opportunity, if the audience is watching now or on the replay, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Dr. Martin, how do they reach out to you?
Please join me on my website. It's mmhearthealer.com. And I am giving away a free ebook, 11 Ways in Which We Resist Angelic Assistance. And it's just a look at all of the things that we think are going to be barriers or limitations, and a way that you can honor who you are and still have a relationship with the angels. So if you feel like, gosh, I would love to, but you might want to download this ebook, just join my mailing list. It will be sent to you as soon as you do the confirmation, and it will share with you 11 different places in which we get stuck and 11 solutions.
That's a great resource. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, I'm so glad to have you here. I'm so glad. Some of you don't know, but I had scheduled this interview for earlier in the day, and Dr. Martin was so accommodating because I realized it was Yom Kippur and I could not do it at our scheduled time. So thank you so much, Dr. Martin, for being so accommodating and coming on here and sharing all of your wisdom. I really appreciate it.
It is such an honor to share with others, such as yourself and other highly sensitive beings, because I know it has been a dark journey getting here. And it feels like perhaps you'll never reach the light. But as Mother God reminds us, We chose the darkness to give us the courage to shine the light of love brightly during this time where we are needing to choose whether we are joining together or whether we are falling apart. And so we're better together. And we have achieved so much. I know it doesn't look like that, but we truly have achieved so much in terms of raising our vibration as a planet. Individually, of course, we had to do it, but each individual and all of you who have been through so much trauma have been the ones that have just said, I'm doing this. I'm going to hold the course. I'm not going to look at the outside or what's wrong. I'm going to hold steady with what's right and bring harmony into the world.
Yeah.
And I honestly think, looking back for myself, if I hadn't been isolated, if I hadn't been in a situation where I just felt like I wasn't worthy and I needed to just be the servant constantly, I might have given up somewhere along the way. I might have just said, I'm good enough. I don't need to keep searching and dig in so deep and learn so much. But because the despair was so deep, the quest became that much more poignant, much more powerful. And I stayed with it until I now realize and recognize that there is another way and it's available to all.
Yeah. And if anyone listening needs to hear this, or if you know anyone that needs to hear this, please feel free to share this. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe. If you're listening to it on Anchor or any of the other podcast outlets, please make sure to send the link to somebody who needs it, because I think this message is really important for the world.
And let's remember, each and every one of you is important. Each person comes with a purpose, they come with a gift, and there is no one who can replace you.
Thank you. That's really beautiful, and that's something that we should all take from this. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Martin. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great night.